Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. In 1968, a cartoon classic hit the airwaves. It was called Wacky Races. I loved the hilarious character names as well as what they called their cars. Of my favorites, there was Peter Perfect in the Turbo Terrific, Rufus Roughcut and Sawtooth in the Buzz Wagon, the tiny but tough Anthill Mob in the Bulletproof Bomb, Sergeant Blast and Private Meekly in the Army Surplus Special. And with a nod to Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff came the Gruesome Twosome in the Creepy Coupe. Also, the inspirations for the later Captain Caveman were the Slag Brothers in the Bouldermobile. And then there was the ever-popular Penelope Pitstop in her compact Pussycat. But my favorites were Dick Dastardly and Muttley. And this is about to go on my tree, the 2018 keepsake Hallmark ornament Wacky Races Mean Machine. I got mine at my local Hallmark store, and you too can get yours at hallmark.com. Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. Well, it's that time again to talk about one of my classic TV crushes. Today, it's about Marlo Thomas. She was the firstborn of the legendary Danny Thomas. Born as Margaret, she was nicknamed Margot, and her childhood pronunciation of it was Marlo. The starlet's early TV career had her guest starring on many classic shows. And while doing some stage acting, she shot a failed TV pilot, interestingly called Two's Company. But that got her noticed by ABC execs, who then offered her her own show. The show was initially titled Miss Independent, but finally wound up being called That Girl. Being an executive producer on the show, Marlo helped form the entire premise as well as her character on the show. In showbiz, Marlo has won 4 Emmys, a Grammy, and a Golden Globe. And in real life, she was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This acknowledged all her work for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which her father founded. And all this goes to show that Marlo is just as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside. Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. Wagons ho! Yep, that was the familiar catchphrase yelled out by Wagon Train star Ward Bond. Bond made his transition to classic TV, like many others, a bona fide movie star. Some of his most memorable movie roles were as Bert the Cop in It's a Wonderful Life, alongside Bogart and Laurie in The Maltese Falcon, and with his good friend John Wayne in John Ford's masterpiece, The Searchers. As a matter of fact, Wagon Train was inspired by John Ford's favorite film creation, Wagon Master. Apparently, there was a debt owed to Bond by the Titan movie director, so he decided to collect. How? He asked Ford to direct an episode of Wagon Train called The Coulter Craven Story. Well, Ford repaid the debt with interest by bringing in his A-list actors, including John Carradine and John Wayne. And that being regarded as the greatest all-star cast of any TV Western episode ever, I'd say the debt was well repaid. Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. On January 14th, 1957, I Love Lucy aired the episode Lucy and Superman. As an early example of crossover stunt casting, Superman was played by the iconic classic TV version George Reeves. This episode has Lucy literally talking herself out on a ledge. She promises little Ricky that Superman, since he's in town, will come to his birthday party. But when the Man of Steel is unable to make it, Lucy decides to assume his role and the comedy ensues. Well, Superman hears it's for a little boy's birthday party and changes his plans. Arriving for little Ricky's birthday party, he's also just in time to save Lucy, who's locked out on the ledge. And this is when Superman delivers his classic comic line,
"And they call me Superman!"
Of course, he's referring to what Ricky must endure being married to Lucy. After the initial airing, George Reeves wasn't included in the credits, and this was reportedly done just to protect children from becoming disillusioned by the fact that Superman was just being played by an actor. Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. When people ask what made me such a fan, I point to one episode of Star Trek called Shore Leave. This one had action, romance, fairy tales, a crazy Irishman, a wild tiger, and much, much more. Unbeknownst to a weary Enterprise crew, whatever would cross your mind on this planet would then cross your path. It could all be very pleasant or deadly. As McCoy thinks to himself this place is like something out of Alice in Wonderland, his wild ride begins. Bones, by the way, this is the first episode we hear his nickname, then sees a giant white rabbit who claims he's late. The Star Trek extra and pro skater Billy Blackburn obtained an Ice Capades costume to play the rabbit. Wardrobe decided the head would stay on better if it was sewn to the suit. And right before the take, they stuck a bow tie over his air hole. Blackburn nearly suffocated and thus discovered he had claustrophobia. Billy later claimed the only thing harder than wearing the rabbit head was the heavy rubber Gorn head. Well, drama aside, it was that very episode that began my lifelong passion for classic television. Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet ran from 1952 to 66. This made it one of the longest-running live-action TV comedies ever. Back in the 1930s, Harriet met Ozzie by becoming a singer in his band. Coined as the Ozzie Nelson Orchestra, they scored a #1 hit in 1935. Yet they hardly ever mentioned their musical past on the show. Upon realizing that their son Eric, known as Ricky, also has some musical talent, Ozzie reluctantly decides to let him sing on the show. That decision created a rock and roll star and a mega teen idol. Over the next 7 years, Ricky Nelson had 30 top 40 hits. His songs Poor Little Fool went to #1 in 1958,
Poor little fool.
and Travelin' Man in 61.
I'm a traveling man.
Now, fast forward to 1990, when Rick's twin sons, Gunnar and Matthew, score a #1 hit with their song Love and Affection. And their band was appropriately named Nelson. Well, that's what I call a classic TV chart-topping legacy.